What does 4 Years Strong, Vans Warped Tour, the Moscow Ballet, Justin Bieber, and Michael Jackson all have in common? This guy. Find out who he is on this episode of 11D Life.
Welcome to the 11D Life podcast.
Hi everyone, Matt here.
Davey's here.
And you are listening to 11D Life. It is so great to be back with you again on this episode. We're starting the new year off right with some really fun interviews.
Well,
with
one.
some folks. with one fun interview. The rest of them are going to be terrible. So go ahead and hit that unsubscribe button because it's all downhill from here. So I was, your mom came to the house this morning.
Yeah, she did. So my mom came to the house this morning. She was dropping off my son. He stayed with her over the new year, over the holiday. And my mom knows our guest today.
Yeah.
So my mom comes in and I tell her who's coming. And she said, isn't he?
And then she looked like she was trying to like finish her sentence. Like, isn't he? And then I, just being sensationalist, was like, dead.
And she said,
she looked at me and she was like, well, is he? And I was like, why would the guest today be dead already?
And we're going to get into that in just a few. Okay, Jennings Compton is with us today. He's a friend of mine from way back in the day. He is also someone who has had quite an experience in the music industry, maybe from a different angle than we have.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we really love doing on the podcast is talking through different people's experiences with the music industry. We've had our own, we've explored that ad nauseum. So what we'd really like to do is kind of get a different perspective on people that maybe don't necessarily do the band thing, but that end up kind of in the same positions that we found ourselves in. So yeah, we'd like to introduce you to a friend of ours, Jennings Compton, and we're going to tie all of this stuff together. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. We also have Craigo in the corner.
What up?
Here.
That should be a whole segment. Craigo in the corner.
Craigo in the corner. This is the very first time Craigo's ever been given a microphone
they finally let
on
me
the
talk.
show.
They unloosed my chains.
Yeah, so that's going to be awesome. Jennings, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We're really happy to have me.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Are you happy to be here?
Yeah, happy to be here.
Okay, well, act like
Because I'm not.
What the hell?
So we actually all have something in common. All four of us in this room have something in common, and it's Lawrence County, South Carolina, where we all grew up.
And more specifically, Hickory Tavern of Lawrence County, South Carolina, where Jennings and I both grew up, which is a small town. We've discussed it on this podcast before.
Davey's mother was one of my teachers in kindergarten.
Was she?
Yep.
She was one of mine too.
I didn't know that she taught kindergarten.
She teaches kids. She
tarted kids.
She tarts kids.
When you're not a teacher anymore, you tart.
Yeah, she did all that, but she taught all of us in Hickory Tavern because there's really only 4 or 5 of us.
Yep.
Jennings, me, and my cousin Ike. That's pretty much it.
Was this like a homeschool situation? Because I know there's a ton of homeschoolers.
It's really
that listen
close
to the show.
to a homeschool situation. It's just a homeschool situation with maybe a few different households.
So it's like a county-funded homeschool situation.
Well, everyone lives within sight of the school anyway, so you don't even have to go to the nurse to call home. You can just go outside and be like, "Mom, I don't feel well."
Yeah. You just yell.
Yep.
If you had a rock and a strong arm, you could hit your house from the school.
Yep.
And we all had strong arms because of Coach Bino Brown.
Nice.
I feel like he wants Jennings on this podcast so he could talk about Bino Brown.
I do. He was a very inspirational person to me. He taught me never to be a hero. He constantly said, "Don't be a hero, Davenport."
And to this day,
I will not do it.
You're not a hero.
If that house is burning, that baby's dying.
Well, spoken like a true anti-hero.
And Bino is the guy they named the football field after at our middle school. So
did they?
Yeah, that's the insight. Like,
and they didn't invite
someone
me
that's
to that?
doling out advice to that to like elementary and middle school kids. That's the role model there, though.
That's true.
So Jennings, this is the first time that I've ever met you in person. I've heard you spoken about in different circles, and Davey was kind of trying to tie all this stuff together for me earlier today. So please correct any misinformation that we may already have together. But he basically was like, hey, so 11D started in Lawrence, Days Offscreen, Davey's band started kind of as our band was leaving. And then as Days Offscreen sort of aged out of high school, that you guys kind of came alongside and there was a little bit of overlap because you were in a pop punk band as well.
Yeah, I was in a band called Farrah. The band originally started was called Half as Good as You Expected.
Is that true?
Yep.
I didn't know. How long was that the name?
Not even one show.
Oh, right.
So not even one show. We did our thing for a little bit, and then we just ran it into the ground. Nobody came in after us. So
is that true? So it just died. See,
died with us. I think.
I left at this point, so I have no idea what happened after you guys. So there's nothing.
As far as Lawrence goes, absolutely not.
Wow.
It got to a point where all the venues in Lawrence had closed. Capitol was gone. The amphitheater wasn't doing shows anymore.
I didn't even know that Capitol became a theater for a minute.
Yep. And we ended up running shows out of a shed at our friend Levi's house, who insisted that we called him Levy instead of Levi. But it wasn't even
Lawrence.
It wasn't even running shows. It was more of like, all right, there's a party at Levy's house.
Levy.
There's a band there.
You'll bring some XLRs.
Yep. So that ended up happening, and then we tried to do the regional touring thing and ran out of money.
Yeah, which happens.
As many bands do. So actually give everybody a bit of a landscape on what it is that you do now, because you've got a pretty interesting set of experiences under your belt.
So basically, after that band split, and we sucked just enough for nothing to happen on that, I've been able to actually make enough connections with other people that didn't suck that I was brought on to more of a behind the scenes role with bands.
Yeah.
Started out with Brigades, but for lack of a better term, I'm the merch guy for probably a band that you've heard of or a production that you've seen or something like that. More prominently employed with a band called 4 Year Strong is my mainstay.
Which you may have heard of that band.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen that name referenced somewhere before.
The band with the beards.
The big dudes with the beards.
Yep.
That's awesome. Cool. So I've actually had a lot of people throughout the course of 11D not really understand what it is that the merch guy does, because I feel like you're not just a merch guy. You're not only handling merch, but you're also kind of juggling interpersonal relationships within the band. You also often find yourself in like a counselor type situation.
Yep.
You also often find yourself in the road manager position.
You
right?
also, you're picking up slack from the road manager a lot of times. And so there's like some overlap there. Like, what is it? Tell us about that sprawl.
It just is also very dependent on the band, and their status within the music world. Like a bigger band is going to have more crew. So like the higher up you go, like your voice gets smaller and smaller. But like there's a lot of bands I still work with that like I'm doubling as tour dad. I'm basically kind of glue holding everybody together when the band's sick of one another.
Right.
And they just need a third party to kind of come in and be like, this guy sucks.
Yeah, we've got into a lot of bands being sick of each other.
Yep.
On this previous episodes of this
That happens, but like anytime you're within 5 feet of someone
for months.
2 months
Yeah.
in a band, like you're gonna want
too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're like a third party arbiter of situations.
Yep.
You're sort of
I'm
somebody
I'm the Switzerland of things, I guess.
Switzerland.
Just kind of a neutral party.
Which
Yeah,
I always
cool.
found this kind of interesting because it would, and I was actually talking to Jessica about this a few days ago because I knew that you were coming on the show and that you handle a lot of the merchandising for these bands and brands and whatnot. And I was like, something that was kind of weird that happened to us in 11D was how many parents would come up to us as like 20-something-year-old dudes who spent most of our life like on the road, who didn't know us and only sort of were familiar with the music from our band, would still kind of like pull us aside. And this would happen once every couple months. We'd run into like a parent who would introduce us to their daughter and then would say something to the effect of like, hey, so what would it take to get her out on the road with you guys? Like maybe handling merch.
Oh no.
For some reason, I was so busy and distracted at the time that I was like, why do you want to have this conversation with me right now? Like I can't. I don't even know where to begin
Because
with all the things that are wrong with that.
Okay, here's the most common misconception. Everyone thinks it's a retail job.
Right, it's not.
You can't work at Target and then go into a touring merchandising job and think it's going to be the same deal.
Right. Although I did work at Aeropostale and then went swiftly from Aeropostale to 11D7.
Yeah, that's
So maybe you can, maybe.
So maybe I'm the exception to the rule, but
no, like the biggest thing is like everybody is like, oh, well, maybe I can't play in a band, or maybe I have no
musical ability.
So maybe this is the spot for me. And then they get out there and they're just like, this isn't the rock and roll experience of what I thought things were going to be.
Right, because it's a lot more than just taking money and giving shirts, right? I mean, that's probably one of the smaller parts of that role.
For the most part, with a lot of bands, like especially the higher up they go and the more demand their fans have from them. For a lot of people, like I'm the only point of contact for that band that they're going to have it all.
Right.
Just as an aside, I also work for a ballet company doing the same exact thing, except it's not t-shirts with a band name on it. It's nutcrackers and Christmas ornaments. And I'm selling to 80-year-old ladies and soccer moms rather than punk kids. You know,
sweet. We're gonna get into that, deeply.
But it's like the same thing. Like I'm the only point of contact for those people. So any complaints or positive messages, they have to come up.
Oh, okay.
So like, oh well, someone was talking in the crowd. I wanted to enjoy the show, but somebody was talking behind me. Who can I talk to? I'm like, that's not me. But like,
for the ballet, you mean? Yeah. Not for 4 Year Strong.
No. 4 year is usually like, how can I meet the guys? I want to buy a beer for them. Yeah, it's like maybe catch them out back.
Just
man.
give me $8 and walk away.
Yeah, just give me the money.
Cool. So what would you consider to be within your role in the 4 Year Strong camp? What do you think is the most challenging thing that people would not know that you experience often?
Honestly, drunk assholes.
Okay,
there you go.
Yeah, like I mean, I get paid to travel the world, sell t-shirts, and hang out with my friends, so I'm not gonna complain about any of it.
Sure,
but there are people that just expect so much from you when there's literally nothing more you can.
There's like
give.
These recurring stereotypes that happen.
They feel owed more than what
have paid for. Okay, well, give us an example of that.
Yeah.
Hey man, I got this t-shirt and it doesn't quite fit right, but I've worn it all day and it's real sweaty and dirty because we're at Warped Tour. But can we exchange this thing out?
No,
not at all.
No,
you ruined it.
Do I look like a laundromat?
Yeah. Or this is a stupid one, but you got any bags back there? No.
We have a 4 Year Strong bag for $15.
Yeah, but you walked into the show, you ran over here, you bought 2 vinyls and a t-shirt and a hoodie. You made your bed, lie in it. You're gonna have to hold it the whole show. I'm sorry, man.
That's the cost of beating the crowd, of beating the lines. You got to hold your shit.
Or you know what? It always surprised me how many times that there's like random people would come up to us at the merch table and be like, "Can I leave my purse here?"
No, I'm not a bag
for a
check.
minute.
I'm not a coat check.
Like, why? What about us makes you think that this purse is going to be safe here?
Like, you don't go to Target.
What I always presented as is, I don't come to McDonald's where you work and sit on the counter.
Oh,
you know, like that's if I'm trying to be like mean to these people or like really go away. But usually I present it as like, oh, it gets very hectic over here. Like,
you guys clear out.
I don't want to be responsible.
Right.
Like at the end of the show, there's going to be a very long line. Like it's not going to be safe here. Like I can't keep an eye on your personal belongings.
With you.
And
so you started work. You came alongside 4 Years Strong in like 2016 and started working for them, and that grew into you being affiliated or working with the Vans Warped Tour, which is its last year. Am I correct in saying that?
It is the last full year.
The last full year.
From my understanding, like Kevin, I can't speak on 100% certainty or anything, but from my understanding, next year is the 25th year.
Okay.
The tour for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, for any sort of induction, a tour requires 25 years of being a thing. So I don't think Kevin is going to be like, all right, this is the 24th year. Right. I'm calling it.
Right.
He's going to do something next year that's going to push that over. Yeah, because I mean, he deserves it. The tour deserves it. You know, everyone involved deserves it.
I mean, everyone in our age group, even like from 34 to 18 today, we grew up with Vans Warped Tour.
Well, that tour was also really important for a lot of bands. Like No Doubt got their start on that tour, I think.
Blink-182.
Blink,
Katy Perry.
MXPX.
Katy Perry.
Started out there. Yeah, there's like so many. And I feel like that tour has spanned several generations. Like my generation is old enough to have kids now that go to Warped Tour, which I feel like we've kind of seen that play out.
It's just a completely different animal now. It's not like there's so many moving parts to it now. It's not just a music or like a skateboarding thing.
Well, tell me this: how did it change for you as a kid growing up, going to Warped Tour, and then kind of transitioning to a behind the scenes like maybe parental role in Warped Tour? Like,
for me, the biggest thing was just like, maybe I was one of those people I was talking about earlier, being like kind of a turd, you know, like, you guys got any stickers? No, get out of here. Hey, anti-flag stickers, come on. But now it's just like, I understand these kids are younger and they're just here and they're excited. And like, for a lot of people, that's the only show they go to all year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, they save their money to buy the ticket. They save their money to buy $500 in merch from all their favorite bands, because that's the only thing that's going to provide all those bands that they love in one.
I know parents that buy their kids Warped Tour tickets for Christmas.
Yep. So that's one thing. And then me being part of production this year and working for the Warped Tour merchandise, like, so many people come to us and they're just like, thank you guys. Like, this is an amazing thing. I've been to every single one. I always buy the shirt from you guys.
Yeah.
So that was this past year?
Yeah, this past year.
The final year. Was there a lot of that sentiment?
No, well, this past year.
No, this is the final year this year.
Yeah, this is the final year this year.
So in working with like 4 Years Strong, which would be like a heavier side of like pop punk, like, what's the difference between a typical tour date with 4 Years Strong running merch for them and then running merch for something that has scaled as massively as Warped Tour has over the years?
With Warped is just much more calculated.
Right.
Because my role with them, I'm the truck guy. And that's a little inside baseball for a lot of people. But basically, we have a team of merchandisers for Warped just because of the scale amount of product that we have to provide for the people at this festival.
Right.
So
what are who are the team members? The truck guy, 2 sellers in the tent, and then Chuck Hell is basically head Kumba. He's also the guy that'll go around and collect the money from the bands and things of that sort, and place all the tents in the morning. But
so he like collects commission. Is he also in charge of like reorders, drop shipping, that sort of stuff?
And then they order through Kings Road Merchandise, who is like our technical employers.
That's a pretty deep dive into the back.
It's a long rope with basically the end of it being Kings Road Merchandise. My role as the truck guy, basically, Warped Tour provides a service for their own merchandise, plus some of the bands on the tour can pay in, and your dailies and your tents and everything you got to pull off can ride on the truck.
Demystify that for some of the people listening who might not know what a daily is.
Daily is basically the boxes or the bins of shirts that you're going to be pulling in and out every day.
Okay.
So the stuff that they're actively selling to you.
Right.
So that stuff will ride on a truck with me, and basically every day I'm loading and unloading that truck. But the best part of this whole thing is, if your stuff is riding on that truck with us, you are also involved with the load in and load out. It's a team effort. So there's going to be anywhere from 10 to 30 people helping in and out that are also on the tour, but they're not employed through the tour. They're working for a band or a sponsor or something like that.
So do bands buy space on these trucks? Yep. Okay.
Yep. So they buy space, and it just makes it easier, and it's a nice thing for bands to do for their merchandising crews, because some of these load-ins from the band parking lot to where they're actually playing that day, or where their merch tent is set up that day, is close to a mile. And
wow.
So it's much easier to just come off of a nice 18-wheeler trailer and, all right, you're set up 15 feet that way.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, throw it back on and we roll to the next city.
So is that space prioritized? Like only certain bands get on, or?
You pay the fee, you're on there.
Okay.
You pay by the footage. Obviously, it's going to be more of the main stage bands because they do have more merch that they're selling and moving. So they're going to have more merch on hand.
Right.
So their stuff will ride with us rather than maybe a smaller band or a band's first time doing the tour. They'll only have a couple shirt designs.
Right. Give me an idea, or give all of us an idea of the amount of merch that's moved at Warped Tour. It's insane, isn't it?
It depends on the band, obviously. And the biggest thing with bands now isn't even the band itself, is how the band has branded itself. Like a band like Attila, say what you will about the band, but the band makes so much money because Franz, their singer, has just become an icon to a Warped Tour world and has branded his band beyond what anyone expected, you know? So bands like
tell me what that branding is for them. What
scumbags.
Okay.
Like I'm not calling them directly scumbags, but Franz like is a guy that
it's like dirtbag core,
like very over sexualized, over blood and gore, that kind of thing. Like they're basically jagged edged and like they rub a lot of people the wrong way.
So do you feel like this is kind of like in the name of anti-PC culture? This is sort of his version of counterculture.
That's their whole deal. Yep.
Okay, cool. And
yeah,
you feel like
great way to describe
that message is resonating with a lot of people that go to Warped Tour, or just within people that like his band?
Not Warped Tour as a whole. I wouldn't say that because I don't want to kind of put words in Warped Tour's mouth.
Well, what's your experience in like what do you
those
see
kids
happening?
that are seeing that, like the 13 to 21, maybe that's a little high on that end. 13 to 18. Those kids love it because they can see that as like, this is the way we're sticking to the man.
It's rebellion.
Like he's up there swearing at people and flipping people off.
Right.
Like that's punk rock now, you know.
The pendulum always swings. I mean, it's always going to swing one way and then back the other way. For every culture, there's a counterculture.
Yeah, but
and if you market it correctly, you can make money off anything.
Yep. And that's what he's been very successful in doing.
Well,
Wow.
there's something like there's always something really attractive about like the people that are saying like, no, we're not adhering to social norms. Like we do kind of enjoy this like edge of society, or like being out on the fringes, or kind of like being our own thing. And people always find themselves like attracted to that.
Yeah. So even though, you know, we clearly just said that that's not everybody at Warped Tour, all of the attendees of Warped Tour, but that's a segment of them. Like what sort of numbers would a band like that, and we don't have to go into like exact dollar amounts, but like size wise, a band like that has maybe figured out how to market themselves really well, and then another band that's on the same level, but maybe doesn't know how to market themselves well. What's the difference in merch sales between those two?
We'll put it this way. I'll do it in a per head number.
Okay.
And we'll kind of break it down between like a Warped Tour festival setting and then a venue setting, because it is two very different things.
Yeah.
Sure.
So at Warped Tour, you're competing with 70 to 80 other bands every day, plus all the sponsors, plus YouTubers that they're bringing into the tour now, plus solo artists that they're bringing into the tour now.
Yeah.
Plus Vans material, plus Warped Tour material.
Wow.
So there's so many moving pieces and competitors. People don't look at it that way, but that's the black and white of it. It's like you are competing with those other people for the little bit of money that is out there.
Little bit of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mommy and daddy's money.
A lot of bit of money.
So on a festival, it would be considered great if a band was doing anywhere from like $2 to $5 a head.
A head meaning, does that mean
per person? Like say if everyone at that festival didn't buy anything but just walked up and gave you that amount of money.
So
if you did $2 a head, everyone at the festival just walks up and gives you $2 out of for no reason.
For the full festival.
For the full festival, every single person just in a line.
You're doing this by festival, not by crowd at the individual stages.
Right.
Okay.
So 2 to 5?
So $2 to $5 a head for a festival is insane.
Right.
And keep in mind, Warped Tour averages anywhere from 10 to 20,000.
Right. So 40,000.
Yeah.
Somewhere around 40,000 in merch.
So with bands that are doing a headliner, completely different thing, all the people that are at that show are there for that band.
Right. And this is a headliner in a venue, right?
At a venue or like a smaller theater or something like that. So like, let's just say about 1,000 capper.
Right.
So the same thing, the per head, if all 1,000 of those people at that show where it was your headliner walked in, it would be considered pretty on par doing about $10 to $20 a head. So you're making less money overall, but your per head is way higher.
Right.
Okay.
So are you moving more merch though? I guess would a festival crowd buy things that like a venue crowd wouldn't? Like is the festival crowd more into like stickers and stuff?
Stickers, like especially with Warped Tour, like the summer packs with like the little drawstring backpacks and water bottles. It's like something that you'll see at a venue show, but it's like the crappy little table item that's $5. So that's literally just leftovers that they're like, we got to get this stuff out of here.
For the bands that are on Warped Tour on the whole, what is the one item all of them are selling that you would say as a merch guy is their primary money maker?
Anything tie-dye right now is just a big like boom. Dad hats are like a big trendy thing right now.
I have no idea what a dad hat is.
Basically, if it looks like a 40-year-old man at Kmart would have it on his head, then they're in for it. Like the little like cinch back things, and like so that kind
it's
of
like
thing.
made out of denim.
Yep. So, and everyone's just doing like a very small little embroidered emblem on the front of it, just very minimal. Like big flashy designs were a thing a few years ago. Now it's like minimal, like one color prints, like one color on a shirt with the band's name are like a big item right now.
Nice.
The pendulum
vinyl is coming back. Like summer festival stuff, like it's risky taking vinyl out because the heat and warping and
oh my gosh, yeah.
It's also, it would be hard as hell to walk around Warped Tour with a handful of vinyls.
Look, vinyl's also really heavy.
Wow.
And expensive.
Yep.
Like if you number one, like you're eating into your gas if you're toting vinyl around, and then like you're also playing in the summer when it absolutely is hot.
Also, I'm just gonna throw this out there: you're a real scumbag if you are charging kids at any festival to come and take a photo with you, or like, oh, it's $10 if you want me to sign that item.
Yeah,
like charging like like if you do a signing line, like come on. Just do it. Cut it off at 100 kids. Get out of there. You can go back to your bus and be a millionaire.
I can totally understand if you're the guy who played, you know, Pinhead in Hellraiser 4 and you're at Comic-Con and you're charging money. No,
but if you're just like
I don't know if there's any excuse for that, like for charging for your autograph.
Those people aren't Ric Flair. That's how I look at it.
That's a good point.
Wait. So Ric Flair would be the one person that you would actually pay money for their autograph, and you wouldn't take issue with it.
I wouldn't pay Rick anything. But Ric Flair is known to charge anywhere from $50 to $100 per signature.
Oh my God.
If Macho Man Randy Savage were still with us, would you pay Macho Man?
Probably Macho Man.
I'd pay Macho Man. All right, Matt.
I've never paid a wrestler money, but
okay. So Jennings, one of the things that's changed about Warped Tour over the years has clearly been attendance. And it's no secret. There's a bunch of articles that have already come out about how Warped Tour attendance is pretty far down from where it was. And as somebody who is working Warped Tour even now, tell us what you think those changes are. Like, I know there's a lot of different factors. There's the economy was supposedly on the upswing. Why are kids not showing up to Warped Tour anymore?
It's hot. It's hot. The ticket is
so climate change.
Climate change.
It's too damn hot outside.
Too damn hot. Earth is too flat. No, it's just hot. The ticket's more expensive. The lineups, like, I'll say these things. I work for the company. I don't care. It's the last year. Who have I got to dress up for? So I'll just be totally honest with it.
Please bear it all.
So I've worked the tour 2015, 2016, 2017, and it's gradually gone down each year.
Right.
Kind of a flagship to that point is the Long Island show of the tour has always been a very well attended.
Right.
Usually around 20,000 people. In this past year, it was less than 10,000 people.
Wow.
So that's like a drastic, like, so you don't even have to know anything about the logistics or like the actual stats of it. You can be a normal Joe and show up and be like, there's nobody here.
Something's not right here. So did ticket prices change between last year and this year?
I don't think they changed that much. The biggest thing this year, Kevin and the tour went for more of an approach booking older bands like Hatebreed. Guar was on it this year.
So kind of like
the Adolescents,
the
like
more
some
legacy
old
approach to
legacies.
the lineup.
And the people that care about those bands do not care about Warped Tour intern.
Right.
Sure.
Those are 40-year-old guys that are working at Jiffy Lube that are like, I ain't getting off work for this.
Yeah.
I'll see him when they're in Columbia in a couple weeks.
Yeah. So why do you think they went with the legacy approach?
Do you feel like he did that for himself, or
not even that? I think it was either a hit or miss, because he could have done it and people would have been like, holy crap, Hatebreed's on Warped again. Let's go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
it just didn't work out that way.
Didn't work out. No one, like, I was stoked when I got to see Anti-Flag play live, but like,
Well, 40-year-old dudes really don't want to go hang out with a bunch of teenagers.
No,
or to a show where
and
they
that's
know
the
that's
thing
what's
about it
gonna
is
happen.
almost like the ends of the spectrum were too gapped there.
Right.
Like,
you're not pivoting at that point. You're just changing everything.
yeah.
Like you just completely changed the tour.
So you kind of have to meet in the middle, but honestly, right now, there's no bands to meet in the middle with. There's no bands. Like either someone's huge or they're tiny. There's just no in between anymore.
So that's something that we've seen and talked about on the podcast before is this kind of disappearing of
Middle class
of
band.
the middle class band, which is kind of weird because I feel like we all grew up listening to very middle class bands. Like,
Sure, it was like super cool.
Okay.
Like we were all into middle class bands.
the Ataris were on Warp this past summer, and I kind of look at them as like, yeah, they had a very high end at one point, but like were for the most part a middle class band.
Sure, blue collar band.
And no one cared on Warp Tour. They wanted to hear the one song that wasn't even their song.
No.
But in my head, I was like, the guy playing guitar for them now is the kid from Blank Check. Why is he here?
What?
Yeah, look it up. He's in that
I'm
band
gonna
now. The
actually
kid
look it
from Blank Check, the child, is in
How
the
long has he
Ataris
been
now.
playing with them?
for the Ataris.
Couple years now.
I saw them
Yeah, then
because he
you-
came through Columbia.
You saw him then. He has a very bad No Effects tattoo on the back of his arm.
Wow.
But in that movie, like, he was kissed by a grown woman, so I like to think that maybe it warped him up a little bit. So he's like, oh, I gotta be a punk man
Wait,
now.
that's the movie with the orangutan in the hotel?
No, that's
That's
Dunstan
Dunstan
Checks
Checks
In.
Blank Check is the one where the kid.
That's not the same movie.
No, basically.
Blank Check is like a classic Disney movie.
Oh yeah, there he is. Blank Check. Wow, he looks like that's an actual mugshot.
Yep. Oh, yeah, he was arrested
Okay.
multiple times. Yep.
Oh, all right.
So,
Why am I not surprised?
Child star.
So that's why there's no middle class bands.
so basically, yeah, that guy
of
ruined it
Blank
for
Check.
everybody.
because of that monkey.
People used to buy records, and that's such a, like, I'm 24,
Such an
but that
old
sounds
thing,
like
yeah.
an old thing to say.
Right.
But
It's true.
In all honesty,
I mean,
like,
it's absolute truth.
the money in what I do in merchandising is most bands' main source of income now. Whereas it used to be record sales and TV appearances, like Steven's Untitled Rock Show,
Oh
like,
yeah. I mean, how big was that?
you know? And one of the cool things, JT from Hawthorne Heights is still a very humble guy. Like, his band did Warped Tour this past summer, and he was just in the mix of it. And he talks about Steven's Untitled Rock Show as like, he's like, yeah, we were kind of the last band that was like in
To ever
that
do
era
that
of
show,
things. And
yeah.
he's like, that was still one of the coolest things he ever did. After that, I can't really think of any other bands. Like,
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, all the-
Fuse
yeah,
went the way of the Buffalo.
The
Like,
media,
no one cared.
the
Like,
media, or like the mainstreaming of the media of the middle class band, like the Fuse.
Yeah.
That was its own thing, wasn't it? It wasn't that so
Fuse, it was
strange?
like his own thing, I think. And then it starts coming out like labels like Victory that everybody was like, God, that label's so sick. There's so many cool bands. It's like, nah, they're dirt bags. Like, they treat people poorly. Like, they broke up bands like Streetlight Manifesto and Spitalfield and all
Well,
these bands. You know, like,
Yeah, that can sometimes be neither here nor there, and
Yeah.
everybody has conflicting stories about that. What I would like to know is, what are the what are the labels that are fueling Warped Tour right now, and what does that like business back end look like?
everybody's paying a fee to be there, like sponsorship.
So it's pay to
dollars
play.
is kind of pay to play. Like, they don't have the stage anymore, but they used to have like a label stage where a label could provide one band, maybe an up and comer or like
Right.
a baby band for that stage.
Right.
They would pay the fee and that would be their representative. But each label now, like, trying to think, Victory's still in the mix. Pure Noise is still there.
Are they sponsoring entire stages?
Not
or-
entire stages. Not the Journeys is like a sponsor now.
Right.
Full Sail University is a sponsor now.
Oh my
Every year
gosh.
it kind of changes. Like, whoever's going to throw the money into the mix, like, it's all dollars and cents when it comes to the sponsorship stuff. Like, sometimes there'll be random candy sponsors on the tour.
So what does it say about Warped Tour that the people that are basically footing the bill for it are kind of shit? Because I didn't know about the Full Sail thing, but I also haven't been to Warped Tour in years.
But they also provide all the backline techs and the sound engineers and
Is it like an internship? That's $100,000 internship.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
We don't need to get into Full Sail.
Okay, so how about this, Jennings? For somebody who's listening right now and they're like, I want to do what that guy did. Like, we all sort of fell into bands like kind of fell into music and just sort of rode that on and on to the next thing, to the next opportunity.
Yep.
Was it kind of that way for you?
That's exactly how it happened for me, because I wouldn't be in this position if I hadn't played in a band. And two of the guys in that band weren't ready to give up their music careers and went on and joined a band, Brigades. And then those guys...
And for everybody who doesn't know who Brigades are, they're a pop punk band from South Carolina.
Yeah. A lot of people, like, if you're listening, are like, oh, well, they're on hiatus or they're done. They're not. They're coming back.
Cool.
So good for them. And I'll always support those guys and contribute to them giving me my first paid, like, touring job.
Right.
So if it hadn't been from knowing two of the guys in that band, from playing with them and then being like, oh, he knows the other side of this business, not just what you see on stage, he knows logistics and things of that sort, then I wouldn't be in this position. But there are ways to have never been in a band, know anybody in a band. And it all just comes through like putting in your time. Like, I know a lot of people volunteer with a lot of the nonprofits that do work just to get the experience.
Right.
Music venues in your city, talk to them about merchandise rep work. Just get an eye at like local hand, help somebody sell. Because a lot of tours don't even have a touring merchandise manager. They have local sellers that they just pay every day. Yeah. Because it's just one less crew member to have on a bus.
Well, and we mentioned this earlier on the podcast, but that's also like a very, like, you really do kind of have to be almost like a Renaissance man or woman of sorts, because it's dealing with really, really high pressure retail situations, but also being able to do all this like configuring and personality management in the background, like to make sure that all this stuff runs smoothly.
It's like, think of Black Friday, but if you don't do it well, you don't get to eat.
Right.
That, and you don't have a cash register sitting there doing everything for you either. Right. So you're like, it's like so much point of sales, and like it gets kind of scary sometimes when you're walking out of venue, and like, and a lot of venues aren't in the best neighborhoods when you're walking out and like you haven't quite settled out with the TM yet, and you're like, I've got 15 grand in my backpack right now. I gotta get out of here. It's like a mad dash from the back door to the bus, and it's just like, no.
Yeah, but those dudes in 4 Year Strong, they're scary looking, man.
They're old.
I'm sure they can handle it.
They're old.
They can handle it.
We got robbed in Europe back in February. One of the guys got his backpack stolen.
Oh no.
We were in Germany.
What part of Germany?
Munich, I think. Huh. Yeah, we were in Munich.
Yeah.
And so
I say that like I knew anything about Germany. I'm like,
I'll tell this story. Okay. I don't think they would care. They would get a kick out of it. But Alan, one of the guitarists and singers, got his backpack stolen, and luckily he didn't lose anything of value. It was all just clothes. We were like, oh well, it's all his luggage, so like let's at least like walk a couple block radius to see if somebody like ditched it in a trash can to maybe come back and get it later after like the crowds have died down or something. And then that couple block radius just turned into 4, turned into 6. And like eventually we just ended up like the entire tour package, like 3 bands just roaming Munich to being like, where's that damn bag?
It's like the Warriors.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even know if we had actually found somebody that had taken it or anything. We would have probably just been like, give us the bag back. But in my head, I was like, this might turn out badly.
Yeah, this might become a gang fight.
So like in my head, I was like, God, we're so tough right now. And then in my head, I would have been like, okay, let's just get the bag and go, please. Let's go. Come.
So one of the things I find fascinating is that this initial sort of you putting in the time in your local scene leading to this first job with Brigades has now, just within the course of a few years, also led to opportunities with Third Eye Blind, Justin Bieber, the Michael Jackson Cirque du Soleil tour, also some WWE Raw and SmackDown experience, and not to mention all the other like super cool opportunities probably that are Vans Warped Tour on a day-to-day basis. Also Riot Fest in there as well.
That one was insane.
Yeah.
I on my list of like top 5 coolest things I've been able to do, Riot Fest in 2016, even though I don't care about the Misfits, them coming back and playing as the original lineup meant so much to so many people.
Wow. Yep.
like, and being able to like be there and sell, and sold for Wu-Tang Clan that weekend.
What?
Morrissey, No Effects, like all these insane artists, like, and through that weekend got to go to the last Motion City soundtrack show, which is like probably the top one for me. Is like, even though I wasn't working, it was like I got to see a band that mattered so much to me play their last show. So
that's one of the cool things, is that like it affords you these opportunities that like no one ever knows what people are going to be looking back on as like something that made musical history 20 years from now, or like what show is going to be important, but you are tapped into this shared experience with all of the subcultures that come from all of these different bands and all of these like different scenes of music that all kind of converge under these banners like Warped Tour and like Riot Fest. What's it feel? Do you ever like just stop and kind of soak it in and just wonder if like in the course of human history, you really are experiencing something kind of unique and wonderful, and feel like it gives your life like a little bit more color than it would have without it?
On a grand scheme, like I don't know how many people are going to care about like the Jawbreaker reunion. That was
Steven from Steven's Untitled Rock Show would care very much.
I would not care.
But on like a global scale, like yes, there's like hundreds of thousands of people that cared and were there this past year at Riot Fest. But for our little subculture of people, that was the coolest thing ever. That was a band that was like, we will never, ever play a show again. And then they were just like, we'll play a show again.
And then someone walks up with a checkbook and they're like, we can reconsider.
Yeah, it's a blank check.
And the numbers that are thrown around at that festival as well are
an orangutan walks up with a blank
even more
check.
ludicrous. And like there's bands in the pipeline that you always hear rumored for upcoming Riot Fest and things of that sort.
So is Riot Fest is more of a, and I hate to get off topic here, but is Riot Fest more building itself as like a American Glastonbury kind of thing, as opposed to like a more longer?
They've also turned into a really great excuse for bands to get together and do like, I think the Replacements got together for like a couple years ago,
and it's always cool because they're a festival that every year has something fresh and new. They don't reuse a lot of bands. The only artist that you see playing almost every year is Andrew WK. He's there just playing the same record.
Just partying. just partying and eating pizza.
But no, they're a festival that has a lot of rumor mill around them of like, who are they going to get next year? Because you know it's not going to be a band that's been together, or maybe it's somebody like Blink with Tom again.
Do you think that Riot Fest is as exciting and bonerific as that is? Do you think that Riot Fest is losing people at the same rate that Warped Tour is?
No. That's a good question.
No, because they saw that the Toronto weekend they were doing wasn't doing as well, so they cut that fat. They cut that fat. They saw Denver wasn't doing as well, so they cut that fat, and they're just like, we're going to take Chicago and blow it out of the water every year. Maybe some more cities will come into play later on, but right now they're just like, we're going to have this kick-ass 3-day weekend for everybody to come to Chicago and blow it out.
So one of the trends happening that kind of started in 2016 that's growing exponentially within the music industry right now are festivals sort of fracturing and reallocating their resources to do kind of more micro events tailored to subgenres of subgenres almost.
Unpack that a little bit, because I'm not sure I followed.
Like, I feel like what's happening with the festivals, and there's a bunch of articles, maybe we'll link to a few of them in the show notes for this, but like
Golden Voice that does Coachella, they also have a hand in like Stagecoach, basically the country western version of Coachella, and then they have like other like more EDM specific, and that sort of
specifically, thing. Festivals like Coachella are scaling to such a massive amount of size that it's not fun to go there anymore. Like, they can't manage the people that are coming there. So it's like, as a festival goer, what I'm more interested in is not going to Coachella. I want to see like 4 or 5 really specific bands like on one day. I'll go to a festival to do that and have that.
Do you think it's kind of like a showcase mindset? Like maybe it's like, okay, this is like, this is like, all right, this is like the pop punk. Like, they would never be on Coachella, a pop punk band.
Right.
But it's like, all right, this is like the pop punk showcase of the Coachella bands. If you guys want to go to this city 2 hours away.
Right.
Like, basically like a road to Coachella kind of thing.
Yeah, it's more like, I guess, more specific. It's more niche. Everything is more niche, though. Like with the more everyone is informed,
because you can charge more for it.
I think.
Ooh, there you go.
You can maybe charge. It's like there's only so many people and so many spots for this kind of thing, so we can inflate the price.
You know what though? There's something special to me. Like when I think about Glastonbury, and I think it was a few years ago. I might be getting this and Leeds mixed up, but it was like The Killers, Foo Fighters, and Jay-Z all played, and I'm like,
that
damn,
sounds awesome.
I would pay anything to go see that. You know what I mean? Like, there's something magical about being able to see such a diverse swath of artists.
Yeah.
But do you think that even Warped Tour has become more of one type of thing over the years? Like I guess not. I guess it started as a pop punk or a punk rock festival, and then I guess it just became harder when the music got harder and lighter when the music got lighter around those.
So like, there's always going to be like the few token, like, all right, well, Waka Flocka did Warp 2 years ago. Riff Raff did it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Katy Perry's done the tour before anybody knew who she was.
But she was like a pop punk artist at that point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that first record was
a good
sort
example.
of like that.
BB Rexa. She's like a top 40 radio person. She is credited with writing Monster, the song that Rihanna and Eminem did that made it huge. She wrote, quote unquote, that song. Right. But she did the tour in 2015. No one knew who she was.
Did she write Eminem's part of that song? I guess that's why they call it Window Pane.
I haven't.
That's my least favorite line that Eminem has ever said.
Is that even that song?
I don't know. As we've been talking about this and like talking about all the different factors that go into changing the attendance rate at Warped Tour and watching all these festivals sort of fracture or reallocate or repivot to serve their core base better. I also think about the current climate, because we're all talking very specifically about America, these experiences happening in America. And I wonder if within the national conscience, I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know.
The zeitgeist, if you will.
Right. In the
learned what that
zeitgeist,
word means
if it's just like
recently,
if it actually does kind of more so now than ever, weird people out to be in gigantic, uncontrolled, unsafe crowds.
Are you referring to terrorism? I mean, it sort of sounds like you're referring to terrorism, which is fine if you are. I understand your comment.
I'm referring to terrorism. I'm referring to like the current cultural climate where it's just like, it's scary. Like how, like just in the past year,
2016,
there were so many festivals that
2016, the Orlando date of Warped Tour, there was like a,
that was the nightclub?
like right after the Pulse nightclub thing, there was like a, something in the air that like an uncertainty of people like, this is a big event. Like, wow, who knows?
I think it's those kinds of experiences that work their way into people's mindsets and make them think twice about whether or not they want to go be a part of large crowds. I think there's a group of people that feel that way.
And it's also going to depend on what the festival or the event is. Like Warped Tour is kind of the thing that maybe the patrons, like the kids that are there, are not going to be as conscious of it, but their parents are going to be like, I don't feel safe with you being there anymore.
Sure.
Because of the age group?
Maybe the age group, or maybe like just an event happening like that. It's like, oh, well, this, and this happened. Like, I don't know if I would feel safe.
I wonder how much of that actually played into the drop in numbers, because it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, because so much of this stuff has popped up over the past 5 years that we just didn't really worry about before that. I don't ever remember being at a football game or being at a venue and thinking to myself, you know, like, is there an existential threat here that could do something awful, you know?
Yeah.
But now I totally get it. Like, if it comes into my head, I'm going to think about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, me too. I feel like maybe I'm a little bit more on the skittish end of that as well. I don't like huge crowds one way or the other. Like, I'd rather just like find a bench somewhere and just plant and people watch more so than I would be. Like,
I've gotten to a point where it's like, if an event is not seated, I'm not interested anymore.
You're so old, you 24-year-old.
Got a bad back.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you have used a lot of these experiences with Warped Tour, Riot Fest, other bands to also sort of help kickstart something that you have found a passion for over the course of the past few years, which is comedy. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did that start, and is that your art form that you kind of see all of these opportunities as a way to sort of launch? Or
do you want me to give you the answer that's going to make me sound like a jerk? Or
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It literally came from something that I've always enjoyed and thought I could be capable of doing. And as much as I knew the band I played with was going nowhere, there was still some resentment and bitterness of other bands that I saw were maybe on the same level, go on and have success or do things, or lack of success, but they were still out there getting the opportunity of it. So I go on a lot of these tours and I see the opening band play to 10 people and then everybody else slowly trickles in. And at this point, I'm like, I've got 25 friends in the city that would come if I was on this poster just to see me, you know? So like it comes from, I feel that I have the capability of doing comedy, like writing and performing. Plus I feel that there would be worth there over some of these bands that are getting opportunities, like placeholders. So that might make me sound like a jerk that like,
here's something that I think you're hitting here is that the overcommoditization of bands.
Is that a word?
Commoditization.
Okay, and I'll paint it this way too. I have no interest in being a comedian and doing the comedy club circuit or being like a New York guy.
Is it because
LA
you
guy.
don't think you can hack it there?
No, because I think those people stink.
Like smell bad.
Yeah, they smell off. They smell
my
like cigarettes and cheap whiskey. No,
Breakfast of Champions.
They're all just goons. Like everyone's stepping on everybody else's toes. Everyone's so threatened by one another. Like, oh, this new guy's coming in. He's funny, but like he's not that funny, you know. And they always try to make it that point.
It sounds like there are people who are because there are a ton of people that start out doing like the comedy circuit, and right now it sounds like you're the guy who came in and maybe tried it out for a minute and was like, no, I'm better than all these people. Like, I don't have time to like maneuver through all of this stuff, like through the social dynamics of these people. And so I'm carving out my own niche in something that I'm already familiar with. It wasn't a
ground floor that I wanted to work up from. Like, it wasn't like a positive space for me. Whereas like I'd already kind of like made a little bit of a niche for myself in band world. I knew that,
well, these are your people. This is your network.
Yeah,
right?
These are my people. Like, and half of my funny stories or content like has to do with these bands these people are coming to see anyway.
Sure.
So why not give me 5 or 10 minutes while
every comedian is not for everyone. Yeah.
No, and I'm able to say that I'm not a strong joke writer, but I can go in and tell a story about somebody's favorite band that's going to make them laugh.
Sure. I think that's incredibly niche. Like going back to the pulling everything down to like its base level and its singularity. I think that is an interesting approach to comedy where everyone else is sort of, oh, we're going to go to these places where somebody's going to make us laugh. And it's a comedy club and we're all here because we're supposed to laugh. And so this has always been the weird thing because I listen to a lot of comedians podcasts like the Pete Holmes Show and stuff like that. And I hear them talk about the process a lot. And the part that has never made a lot of sense to me, or that always just made me really just damn anxious, is like you go to a music venue because there's going to be music and there's musicians that are gonna play that music, right? As long as those musicians play that music well, we're all happy and we can go home and we're all good.
And there's a lot of bands that don't play well and people are still happy with it.
Yeah, but with comedy is such a fickle thing. Like it's some nights you'll kill, some nights you won't kill, and it's like you could do the exact same act in 2 different rooms, and bomb in one, and completely kill in the other, and like. These people are coming here because they're expecting you to make them laugh. And that can either go one of 2 ways. It can be, okay, we're more predisposed to laugh, or you're going to have to work a little bit harder to make me laugh. Well, people
going to see bands already have this set of material, these songs that they already have an emotional connection with. And they're going into a huge room with a lot of other people who have those same like feelings, those same emotional connections to things. And a lot of times like going to see a comedian, it's like, I don't know if they're going to make me laugh or not. Like, but they better because I paid money.
Sure, it's almost like a test.
It's not like you're insured that you're going to laugh.
Yeah, this is hard. But I think the difference here is that there's an expectation of laughing. But when you go to a rock show and then a guy gets up and starts telling stand-up comedy, the stuff that makes me laugh catches me off guard. That's going to catch me completely off guard.
If you go to a show and see somebody there.
Yeah, but from the other side of it too, from these negative people in the comedy world, like there's been very minimal that have been outspoken about it, but like I have gotten some feedback that's like, oh, you're kind of cheating because like you're kind of getting around that expectation of like you've got to be funny, and if you're not, you're going to disappoint people. But if I go up before a band and I'm not funny or people don't care, then those people aren't disappointed because they weren't there to see me do comedy anyway.
So
like,
are you approaching it from like an MC perspective, or is it more of
that's how it's kind of like laid out, because I've never gotten like a tour offer, obviously, because this is still a fairly new thing that I'm breaking into, but that is what I'm working towards, is maybe getting offered a 1-hole or a 2-hole on a tour and just working the tour anyway. I would already be there. But so far it's been like, oh, this band showed up and signed on for this tour to do a 30-minute set, but they only really have 20 minutes of songs.
Right.
And their stage banter stinks anyway, so they can kind of cut the banter out, just play their songs, and they'll give me that extra 10 minutes to, all right, well, go up before us. Like, we would rather not talk anyway, so you can do it for us.
While they're doing like setup. Cool.
Have you ran into anyone else doing this?
Nobody on a personal level, but there are Kyle Kinane is a comedian that does it. He tours with bands quite often. Hannibal Buress is a little bit bigger name that does shows with a lot of hip hop artists.
Oh, Hannibal's doing shows with hip hop artists?
Yeah.
I bet that's a blast.
He he did a tour with Cypress Hill.
Wow. Hannibal's funny.
That's awesome. Jennings, I would like to extend a new segment that we're trying out on the show. It's basically a lightning round of sorts, and
we're gonna name it something else.
We're gonna find a more creative name for it, more so than 11D lightning, since we just put 11D in front of everything, and that really does not flow off the tongue well at all. So
it sounds like after a show, it's just like somebody that saw 11D that was super stoked on. It's like, oh, I got the 11D lightning.
Got 11D lightning in a bottle.
My 11D lightheaded.
Okay, so no time to think about this. We're going to ask you questions. If you don't answer within like the first few seconds, we're just going to start screaming at you so you can't think.
I'm going to take my shirt off.
Yeah, Davey's going to start stripping. Jennings is like, I'll be quiet as a mouse. Okay, so here we go. The last thing that you listen to.
Podcast, Spittin' Chicklets.
Okay.
The Barstool's hockey podcast. Yeah.
Ah, cool. Awesome.
Great.
Okay. Something that's true about you that you wouldn't mention on a first date.
Oh, no.
Something that would just weird a first date out.
I paint my toetonails from time to time.
You do. I've actually seen that.
Yeah. That's dainty.
Hockey skates basically ruin my feet, so sometimes I need to feel pretty.
Is that just for you, or you wearing flip-flops out in public?
No, that's just for me.
Just for you. Okay.
Okay, so as someone who actually used to be a wrestler, Steve Austin or Gold Dust?
No, that's not the question.
They both used to be wrestlers, but Gold Dust still wrestles.
So which one would you choose?
Gold Dust.
Okay, cool. Bus touring versus van touring?
Van touring.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay, if you had to, I'm going to give you 3 things. I need you to tell me.
I want to save that one for last.
Okay.
Because it takes a minute. It's not something you can answer quickly.
You're right. And which one is a wrestler, Steve Austin or Gold Dust? You did that one really well, too.
Is that what I asked?
Yeah.
Which one is a wrestler?
Yeah.
I said, what's your favorite wrestler? I'll have to go back and listen to this again. Okay.
Nick Foley.
Okay.
Good love.
Longest that you've gone without a shower.
Cactus Jack.
At least a week.
At least a week. I'm surprised that you said van touring versus bus touring. It's something about the intimate.
Van touring, yeah, because bus touring, if you are in a fight with someone or on the outs with someone, bus touring, somebody can go in the back lounge or you can hide in your bunk and just separate and it's never going to get resolved. Van touring, you're still going to be looking that person in the face the entire way. And
unless
eventually
you make a fort in the back of the van.
We talked about that a lot on the podcast. Like having to take care of things really, really quickly. Davey and I came up with this awesome segment. I will let...
No, I don't even want to do it anymore.
Why not?
Because you kibosh me already.
Your ego's not that fragile.
It is. It certainly is.
Okay, so we're probably going to rename this segment at some point.
Don't be a hero, Davenport.
But the original idea for it is basically be in, break up, or begin. So as someone who's in a band or working with bands, what's a band that you could choose to be in? What's a band that you would choose to break up? And then what's one that you would choose to begin with your all-star team that you're a part of?
So we need the name and the members.
Right. So a band that you would be in right now.
A band that I would be in right now, I would take Steve Carr's job in the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones.
Okay.
or Ben Carr, not Steve Carr, my God. Ben Carr. The guy, if you're not familiar.
Mega fan over here.
He was the tour manager for the band for the longest time. They played a venue that was like, yeah, like only band. We're not letting you in. They're like, he's in the band. Yeah, what's he do? Oh, he just dances on stage with us. And from then on, for over a 20-year career, that's been his position with the band. Dances on stage with them.
Wow. Pretty low barrier to entry.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah. That has to be interesting at cocktail parties when people are like, so what do you do?
It's like, I'm a white guy that dances for a ska band.
Yep.
What's a ska? What's a band that you would break up right now?
A band that I would break up.
If you could pull the plug on one band.
If you could Yoko a band.
Oh, God.
Through sexual attention.
Yeah. I don't know. This one's tough. I don't know, because I mean,
yeah,
just
this
a
is
band
tough.
that you can't stand that you would love to see just break up tomorrow and not ever go into the studio again, because you feel like what they put out into the world makes it a worse place.
This is going to be another one that's like, God, this guy's a jerk. But there's just some bands on Warped Tour that you hear their set every day that you're like, oh no, it's them again. It's their 30 minutes. But 2 years ago, We the Kings literally made me want to crawl into a hole.
So your answer is We the Kings.
So you would break them up. Okay.
Yep. Or Yellow Card was another one.
Yeah, but they're already broken up.
But they're already broken
done.
up. So I guess they got
the
brain waves there.
Begin them, then break them up.
But what a waste to an
That's
answer,
a waste
though.
to begin.
Damn fiddle player.
Dude, I can't get in Yellow Card. Like, I like the songs, the fast songs, but the fiddle player. What is this? What is happening? Why is there a violin?
It's kitsch. It served them well. They had a good run.
Had a really
They had
good
a
run.
great
One of
run.
my favorite
Really
tweets of all time. I can't remember which one of the brothers, and Every Time I Die, it was either Keith or Jordan, tweeted a couple years ago. It was like, first day of Warped Tour. Can't wait to do yoga with all my friends all summer. Day 10 of Warped Tour. Wonder if the fiddle player from Yellow Card has cocaine. Jesus.
Sweet.
You can't play fiddle like that sober.
Okay, cool. So last one, all-star band that you could begin.
All-star band.
What was that? I've never seen anyone think with their mouth that hard.
I guess it was like
All-star
kind of
band.
pulling the cord on the lawnmower of my brain, I guess.
The old snapper. Danny's snapper.
Drove it to the pool.
Drove it to the pool. That's inside baseball.
Yeah, it's way too inside baseball.
Over everyone's head.
This one's tough.
Under their chin. Well, we can
It's
frame,
not
we maybe,
supposed to be easy.
Yeah, we maybe
Yeah,
can
that
frame it
one-
better for you. You can the way I would approach it is who's my favorite singer, who's my favorite guitar player, bass player, drummer,
All right.
and what would I name them together?
Could I do it like this? Like, since my favorite band is Alkaline Trio,
Don't
can I
ask, just do it.
Oh gosh.
Can I take Skiba out of Blink and just get him the hell out of there?
and put him back in
And
Alkaline
put
Trio?
Tom back in Blink. Don't really care about Blink, but we're going to get that back together so
Sure.
I can get Matt out of
Okay.
Blink. I don't back that at all.
You
Okay.
don't back it?
Okay.
No.
I am also an enormous Alkaline Trio fan, and I'm kind of happy for Matt Skiba.
No, that's great for him. I want him to
Does
make that
nothing for
money,
me.
but,
That's
but
nothing for me.
please, they Trio write a new record.
Amen. Alkaline Trio, write a new record.
Okay, so is that your answer?
Yeah,
it's like
I
a
guess that's my,
half-assed answer.
like-
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. All right, cool.
I feel
so
like I could put together an ideal tour package better than a band.
Well, you know what, Jennings? I think we should do that. Let's put together an ideal tour package. Club tour.
Club tour? All right.
That's maybe what we should name this segment.
right.
Maybe I think it would be cool to have Trio. Alkaline Trio saves the day, maybe a co-headliner.
Oh,
Nice. Emo dive.
Smoking Popes as the 2-hole. We'll do 4 bands. And then
Smoking Popes.
see who can open this thing up. Another weird mouth noise. So we got 2 Chicago-based. I feel like we have to West.
Saves the Day, Chicago.
No, they're I don't know who would be an opener on that.
I don't know. I wish we had some Jeopardy music to cue right now because we're eating up hard drive space like nobody's
Who
business.
would be an opener?
No, just those 3. I don't want to stay out late. 3-band bill. We'll get the show knocked
There
out. We'll
you
get
go.
out of there.
You're creeping up on 30.
with Jennings with Jennings Compton opening.
Wait, is the event seated? I don't want to go.
Jennings, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. This has been so awesome. You can check out Jennings in the show notes if you want to find out more information about him and different things that he's been a part of. Hey, check us out. We're on Instagram.com/11d7isalive. Our website is 11d7isalive.com. We have a brand new album called Rad Science. It is out on Spotify. There's a link to that in the show notes. Thank you once again for touring in. Jennings, thanks for coming on. I hope we can have you on again sometime.
I hope everyone out there doesn't think I'm too much of a jaded guy, but I'm very appreciative of where I'm at, and I don't hate everyone as it may come across.
I don't think you came across that way.
Dude, we're at like episode 36 of jaded old guys talking in a room.
But the thing about it is, like, I grew up like, oh, well, Davey's like my superior, like he's the guy that's like showing me all these bands. Like, I contribute you showing me Less Than Jake at the pool. Doing a tour with him in February, so I'm stoked.
Sick.
So I guess it kind of rubs off. Awesome. It kind of trickles downhill.
So catch Jennings on tour with Less Than Jake this year.
It rubs off.
Yeah, you can see him out there. Thank you guys for listening. We love you. See you next week.